started. Welcome to another episode of the dynamic duo talking security from deep within our secret crime-fighting lair. Pamela and I are ever vigilant sniffing out evil actors. If we had any actual budget, we'd invest in new capes and masks. But sadly, we have no budget. Today we have a real treat for you. This is our 4th episode, and we have the privilege of talking to none other than Jim Yost. Anyone that's been in IT in Michigan for any length of time knows Jim. I'm going to ask Pamela to introduce Jim to our viewing audience. Pamela?
Very good. Jim, welcome. Jim Yost, he was our CIO at Ford Motor Company. I had the pleasure of also working with Jim when he was in the role of CFO at Dana Corporation. And today we're going to be talking about relationships, vendor management. And one of the things, Jim, that so impressed me when I was working with you was the fact that you were very approachable, as well as your managing directors, all very approachable. And I kind of looked at that as, you know, that was your management style, and it really filtered down to your managing directors. So what were you, and I can think of Tom Tremonti, George Serdou, who I loved, and both Brian and I went on to work with George at Comerica, and there was Mark Duhame and just a host of others that, Jim, that were working for you and with you, and we truly enjoyed our experiences with all of you. And what were you looking for in a relationship with your vendor?
Well, first of all, Pamela, thank you for having me on. Brian, also, I appreciate the opportunity. It's my pleasure to be here. I'll try and give some thoughts and answer some of your questions. I inherited a very, very strong team at Ford. Everybody was dedicated to serving our customers internal and trying to get the best resources applied to our problems as we could. We relied very, very heavily on outside vendors to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, bringing in solutions, as well as helping us implement applications and a lot of problem solving. So you're right, I tried to adhere to an open door policy that anybody who needed help, I viewed my role as a senior leader as to set policy, but equally importantly, to help people get the job done. I didn't do all the work. I didn't do a fraction of it. I did a tiny bit of it. But my role, as I saw it, was to try and translate what the company's goals and objectives and strategies were into what we as a team could do to support the organization with the help of our outside vendors and relationships. And we had very strong relationships. One of those was obviously with IBM, as well as some of the other, we dealt with most of the major players in the field. And my view has always been you get the best out of people by having an open and warm relationship with them, be tough on our vendors, hold them to account, negotiate the tough deals and hold their feet to the fire to get them done, because IT can be tend to get out of control if you're not on top of things. And I've had some instances where we've had to jump on situations, but that doesn't mean we can't have an open, warm relationship where you're sharing ideas. And most importantly, if there are problems, I was the one who wanted to hear about them. I wasn't afraid to hear about problems, whether it was inside the organization or outside the organization. And if you create an open culture where people are sharing ideas openly without fear of retribution or problems, I think you get the most out of people.
I would agree. I do remember once at Dana Corporation, we had Arlen Gerke was our client executive and Denny Reichenbach was our software client leader. And we did run into a little rough patch there. And, you know, there were some problems. And the most important thing was how we handled the problem, right? And we dug in, everyone worked together, and you were happy with the turnaround. And, you know, problems will arise in relationships, right? But it's how you remedy the problem with your solution. And here we are today, Brian and I, we were assigned our clients in February. So Jim, we have not had the opportunity of meeting these clients face to face, if you can imagine, right? So we are trying to build relationships with our clients by doing this YouTube video, you know, stepping outside the box, trying to, you know, we can't meet with them face to face. So trying to bring value, and Brian has been just wonderful at putting together this newsletter that we're sending out every single Friday with consistency. And Brian, what are some of the things that you've been putting in the newsletter that really add value to our folks?
So you know, since the lockdown, everybody's sitting at home. I'm sitting at my home. You guys are sitting in your homes, and people have. I mean, they certainly have their day jobs to do, but I think commute time kind of got added back to people's lives. So people have the opportunity to spend some time going to webinars and training, and you know, furthering their career through education. So IBM has really stepped up in the last few months, and we have a tremendous amount of things that are absolutely free to customers. We have CIO Summit coming up in October. We've got virtual cyber ranges where you know, we simulate a breach, and you know, we go through all the drama of that involving the whole organization. And I would say IBM has really done a super job of coming up with ways to keep customers, you know, kind of paddling along with this, because you know, it's in the absence of that, it's just, you know, because you can't go out and see anybody anymore. So it's really been tough to, you know, keep even the existing relationships that you have going, because, you know, every once in a while you got to step and actually see somebody face to face, you know. And I'm much better in person than I am on YouTube, let me tell you. So.
Well, you know, Jim, I used to do those C-level executive dinners at Ruth Chris, and you attended, and our CISO at Ford attended, and Brian was at, you know, at most of those. I think that's how you initially met. You two was at one of those CISO events. But so we're trying to be creative and do everything we can to be able to connect with our clients.
I think that's great. And today's environment is extremely difficult. I've got 3 children, all of whom are in business working from home. And it does create some interesting opportunities, as well as significant difficulties to build relationships. And quite honestly, I always relied heavily on the relationships with our customers. Again, whether it was in IT or in other roles where I had, to me, it was the relationships that you formed and the commitments that you formed. And I was always looking for partners who were there through thick and thin, and were going to be there long term. We tried not to be on the bleeding edge of things, because that's when things can easily break. We every once in a while would experience a vendor who would cease supporting products and things like that, and that created very great difficulties for the organization. So relationships and long-term commitments to the company was one of the keys that we always tried to look for. Now, that obviously, if the customer or the vendor we're dealing with doesn't have the solutions we need, we'd go outside our normal universe. But you know, we tried to take a look at what the mainline vendors that we had could offer, and tried to keep in place very long-term solutions. I know I was used some of IBM's products before I was a CIO at Ford, not the least of which was the PROFS, the professional office system, which we used Ford used for its email a long time before the, you know, Outlook and Gmail and other capabilities came online. And you know, we continued that experience for a very long time with IBM while I was there. And you know, we undertook a number of projects at my subsequent companies working with IBM. And I have to say that you know, there was always bumps in the road, but we were generally very satisfied with the type of support we got. And we knew if there was a problem that IBM would throw whatever it would take into the mix to get the product up and running and take care of us.
Yeah. Very good. I know, Brian, you had a couple questions for Jim.
All right, so you know, Jim, I've been at IBM for about 20 years all in. That's my best guess. Certainly not consecutively. This is my third tour of duty with IBM. And the job I had just prior to this was working with a business partner at Ford, and we took care of all your Microsoft business. And they had a lot of commas and a lot of zeros. It was big ticket stuff. And what I was really impressed with is that every year I got invited to the strategic supplier conference, and once a year, all the big suppliers to Ford would get in a room, and all the executives from Ford would come out and say, how glad they were to be working with us. And the first time I sat through that, I thought, this is really impressive that a big company has gone to this much trouble to impress upon us how critical we are to the success of this company. And I wondered why other companies in Detroit don't do this kind of thing. So, maybe you could kind of talk to the Ford culture and, what would have precipitated, a conference like that?
Well, that type of conference wasn't unique to IT. We did it regularly with our suppliers from on the material side, the component suppliers, because again, our culture, in spite of maybe the roots when Henry Ford founded the company, where essentially we created vehicles from the rubber, and the iron ore, where we're 100% essentially largely insourced. Over time, it became obvious that a lot of suppliers were a lot more capable of bringing technology and capability to the corporation, and whether it was vehicle manufacturing or IT, as the universe got more and more complex, companies began to specialize in things. We obviously had to bring in talent because we were incapable of hiring enough talent in every single area to solve every problem. And Ford, whether it was in the component manufacturing or in IT, would sit down strategically and decide with whom we wanted to partner long-term and strategically. And we would open ourselves up to explore ideas, just as if these vendors and suppliers were inside the company. It's the only way to get the support from the outside. The vendors have to understand what we're trying to accomplish, so that they can bring the proper solutions to the company. And it was very important we do that, hear what the companies have to say, and then decide how we wanted to proceed, deciding what applications we wanted to launch and when we needed to bring in a lot of technical support to launch new applications. So I would say that it was a Ford culture. It wasn't just unique to IT, but it was a Ford culture that welcomed suppliers to come in and support the company and as the best it could, both from a timing as well as a cost effectiveness standpoint, and technology too.
Yeah, I always like dealing with Ford because I knew it was going to be tough in negotiations, but at the end of the day, it was usually a fair deal for everybody. Everybody gave up a little bit, and we all kind of got along, and it ended up being great. And I never really found that at the other big companies in Detroit. It was always kind of it tended to be a win-lose situation where they were trying to beat every last penny out of you, so that that was just their goal. And I just really appreciated working with Ford, because certainly you're going to get the best price, but it wasn't as adversarial as other places. So it was great.
Well, I think my experience has been, whether it's been in business or in personal life, that there's cheap and cheerful, there's gold-plated luxury, and then there is, depending upon the circumstances, something in between where it's a fair value for everybody. You get what you need. It's not overly gold-plated, and too often I've seen where you cut too many corners and you don't get what you need, and then you spend a lot more money either fixing it or replacing it, and that just doesn't do anybody any good. So as tough as Ford can be, and other companies can be in negotiating, I think at the end of the day, you have to make sure that both sides get enough out of it that they put their full resources behind the projects and continue to support you long term. It's easy. You can get somebody to come in and mow your lawn for $10, but are they going to be around for the whole season? There are a lot of stories of people, signing contracts to have snow plowing, and the snowplow people never show up.
Right. Oh yeah.
I prefer to go with a company that's going to be there, rain and shine, in the case of snow plowing, in the snow, and make sure that I don't have to worry about that. And I think that's the case with in business. It's not surprising that I think Ford built a very good relationship with IBM, and as I said, in my subsequent supplier roles, we built some other very good relationships with IBM, as well as other vendors who we felt were going to provide what we needed to support us at an affordable price.
Yeah.
Right. I remember, Jim, when I first started working with you and working with Ford, I was working at CompuWare at the time. I was a regional director and managed their largest piece of business, which was the services division. So I had an office there at the iTech building and an office downtown Detroit. And I felt like I was just one of the Ford employees. I felt like, I was at home. So truly, I enjoyed that experience, and then came to IBM, and of course have been with IBM now for 15 years. So I'm telling my age here. I better be quiet. So, but listen, we really want to extend our thanks to you, Jim, for coming on today and giving us this time. And we're hoping to one day meet our clients face to face, aren't we, Brian? And we'll do it. And so we're going to give you back some of your time today, Jim, and Brian and I want to, again, just thank you so much for your time. And in closing, I want to say thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and stay safe.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys, and stay secure. Please subscribe to the channel, click the bell down below, and turn on notifications. Please share this video with your friends and neighbors. And remember, don't let the bad guys ruin your day. Until next time, it's the Dynamic Duo signing off.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.